in the inside of the circle. Put your paper in front of you on the floor. Nope, in front of you on the floor, just like this. In front of you on the floor, just like this. Put your hands in spark. Check your hands, they should not be touching your paper. Flip it so that you can see what you wrote on the front. Sorry. Alright. Hold your hands up in the air. Hold your hands in the air. Put them up in the air. Because we're wasting time waiting on friends to get their bodies correct, and this is not the way we need to waste our time. Right now, we should be sharing our thoughts and our ideas about our lesson. Put your card down, put your hands in the air. Lap them together. Bring them into your lap. Do not touch your card. I'm going to call on someone to start our discussion. Whoever I call on, we are tracking with our eyes. We are listening to what they have to say. Then you can show me if you agree or disagree or want to add to what they have said. We are not touching our card. Should you give your signals while they are talking? No. When should you give your signals? After they finish. While they are talking, you have two options. You can sit like this and track them, or you can sit like this and track them. This is not how we send energy. This is how we send energy. So you can either sit in spark and track, or you can send energy and track like this. So right now, everyone's in spark with their hands not touching your card. I'm going to call on one person to start us off by telling us what they think the lesson is, and we are all going to track either in spark or with energy and listen to that person's thought. When they finish, you can show him or her whether you agree or disagree, and that person will call on who he wants to hear from next, or who she wants to hear from next. I'm sitting back here to listen. So make sure you are tracking whoever will speak first. Tavi, what do you think the lesson of this story is? What did you write on your card?
This lesson told us to not to be stingy and let other people take care of your stuff.
Okay. So Tavi said this lesson teaches us not to be stingy and let other people take care of your stuff. You should be showing Tavi whether you agree or disagree or want to add to that. He's going to call on who he wants to hear from. Stingy is another word that means the same as what?
Greedy.
Greedy. So he thinks it's about being greedy. Call on who you want to hear from next. All right, Marquise, do you agree or disagree with Tavi?
I agree with Tavi because whenever you don't have any money and you're just like poor and broke and don't have nothing and you just have clothes, you can just look if you just ask people nicely to ask them to give them a ride and a place to be safe.
Marquise, call somebody else too. What do you think?
I think you're on the right track, but you're on the right track.
So do you agree with Tavi's lesson too about being greedy? Can you give us evidence from this story that tells us that lesson? What happened in this story to teach us to not be greedy?
The farmer and the wife, they were poor. Then a miracle happened. The goose laid the golden egg, and then they got rich, and then they cut open the goose to make more money. That tells us they're greedy because they just want everything for themselves.
Why don't you call on the next person to share?
Yeah. I think that too, but that we learn too is that we can learn that if good people don't do like the bad, if they can come with generous things and be goodness and the
That's an interesting thought. Make sure your card is flat and you're not touching it. It can be either in spark or in energy. That's an interesting thought from Jada. I wonder who wants to talk about more of that. Who wants to agree or disagree? So if they were greedy and stingy, does that mean they were good people or bad people?
bad people.
So what kind of things happen to bad people? Good things or bad things? What happened to these people when they were greedy and stingy? What was the consequence of their greediness? Was that the bad thing that happened to them? Call on somebody to help you out with this thought, Maddie. What was the consequence of their greediness? Jaden, what was the consequence of their greediness?
The consequence of their greediness is, at first they didn't have no money, and then when, the farmer wife had went to go get some more eggs, to sell, she had found, a golden egg that was really heavy, and, she ran to,
I'm going to pause you, Jaden, because you're going through the retail, which is important, but I want to think just about the consequence of their greed. So because they were greedy, what happened next? What was the effect? Because they were greedy, what happened to them?
because they were greedy is, that they lost all of their money.
Because they were greedy, they lost all of their money. And back to Jada's point, Jada was saying, when you're a good person, good things happen to you. And then when you make the wrong choices, when you turn into a bad person, bad things happen. So we know that bad things happen to them at the end of that story. But what about in the beginning? Call on somebody, Jada, and talk about what kind of people they were in the beginning and what happened to them.
Charlize,
Make sure we're tracking Charlize.
what kind of people they were in the beginning? They were poor people and they really didn't have much money.
And then what
And
happened?
then what happened? Then they found something really, then they found a golden egg and they were so rich and they started buying stuff that they really didn't need.
So I feel like there was a change that happens in the middle of this story. Because they started off, like Jada said, they were good people. Like Charlize said, they didn't have a whole lot of money. But then a miracle happened, right? A miracle happened. Why did that miracle happen? Call on somebody, Charlize. Daryl, why did that miracle happen in the beginning?
Because the goose laid the golden egg.
Why do you think that happened? Call on somebody who thinks they might. This is a tricky question. Carly, why do you think that miracle happened to them?
It happened to them because. Wait, what I was talking about?
Why do we think the miracle happened to the farmer and his wife in the beginning? Why did that happen? Remember when someone's talking, we're sending energy or sitting in square? This is a tricky one. It doesn't tell us in the story. We have to think about it.
A miracle had divided. them spending money on expensive clothes and expensive stuff and adding stuff to their house and building onto their farm and don't buy no school supplies or clothes for their children for school.
Okay, so I love your enthusiasm, but I think you're answering the wrong question. I disagree. This is a tough question. I want us to think very closely.
It's so tough.
Let's sit and spark. Let me remind you of the question. In the beginning of this story, a miracle happened. That miracle was that these poor people found a golden egg that their hen had laid. That was a miracle. They found gold, solid gold.
You mean it?
My question is, why do you think that happened to them? Why do you think they found...
Or the egg? I mean, did the goose that was in the golden egg come out?
No, it was just solid gold. There was no
so-
goose, just a gold egg. Call on somebody, Carly. Why do we think this happened to these people? Why did they receive this miracle?
I want to call, let's see. Oh, I'm going to call Chloe.
Chloe, why do you think that happened to them?
That happened to them because they were being greedy and then they cut up the fruit and then they found nothing in there and they started getting back to being
Were they greedy in the beginning?
No.
Were they greedy when they first got the golden egg?
Yes. No.
Were they greedy before they got the golden egg?
No.
What do we think they were like before they got the golden egg? What do we think they were like? So we know they were poor, but what do we think they were like on the inside before that golden egg came around? Chloe, call on somebody. You should be looking at Chloe to let her know what you think. Ooh, our builds don't make any noise. They sound like... Honey, what do you think they were like before that golden egg came around? You think they were greedy before the egg? What do you think they might have been like? Let's look at our evidence. So it said they were selling eggs and butter, so they worked on a farm, right? And they were barely getting by, so they were barely making any money. But they were selling these eggs and butter to try to support each other. What do we think they were like? What kind of people were they? What do we think? Do we think, bless you, do we think they were good people or bad people before that golden egg came? Maybe they were good people, they were hard workers, they were selling eggs and butter. So because they were good people in the beginning, what happened to them? Because they were good people, they got what?
Gold.
Well, they got a miracle. So what Jada was saying about good people getting good things, they were good and they got a miracle. So what changed for them? Oh wait, I'm gonna let Tony call on somebody. Make sure your card is flat. Make sure your hands are in spark or showing him a signal. Tony, call on somebody to add what changed with these people's lives. Trying to call on somebody who knows what the question is. Don't give a signal unless you know what we're talking about. You gotta listen to your team.
The miracle happened because the goose was watching over them. They were being good, so he dropped off the miracle because they were being good people.
So maybe
And
the
they
goose made the
were
miracle happen.
poor.
And what changed with the people?
It changed. They changed by when they got the golden egg. They started getting greedy and wanted more money and then the goose came down and then they cut the goose to get more money.
Okay, so here's what we know about these people. They started off being what kind of people?
Good.
Pretty good people. And then what happened to them?
Miracle.
First, a miracle, which was what? What was their miracle?
The golden egg.
The goose that laid the golden egg. And then because they got all this gold, they turned into what kind of people? Greedy people. And when they turned into greedy people, then what happened?
They lost all their money.
They lost all their money, and they lost their
Goose.
special goose, right? So when we think back about the lesson, there's a couple options that we came up with that you can write about. You can write about whichever option you think is the best lesson. So we know the first one that Tavi said was what? What was Tavi's lesson?
Not to be selfish.
Not to be selfish or stingy or greedy. Right? And then Jada's lesson that we worked through was good things happen to good people and
Bad things happen to
bad things happen to bad people. Make sure your card is flat. We're not touching it yet. Kaden, which card flat? I said Kaden. So let's say those lessons one more time. Tavi's lesson was don't be stingy or greedy or selfish. And Jada's lesson was that good things happen to and bad things happen to bad people. So when we write about our lessons tomorrow, I want you to make sure that you can find evidence for whichever lesson you choose. Kevian, put up please. Find evidence for whichever lesson you choose. So what kind of people were they and how do we know? And then what happened to them because of that. Make sense?
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
All right, pick up your card.